The woman went silent for a few seconds. Then a sob broke through the line. Ad? Adrian? Is that you? Oh my God, I've been searching. I never stopped looking. The morning sun spilled over a small house in a California suburb, bathing the home of a poor but deeply loving immigrant couple. The father, of East Asian descent, quietly gathered his tools for one last extra shift, while the mother, from Mexico, hurriedly wrapped pastries to sell along her route. They toiled relentlessly each day, trading their strength and sweat to provide for their 6-year-old twin boys, Aaron and Adrian. The boys were so identical, even their mother sometimes couldn't tell them apart. The only clear markers were the necklaces she had bought for their 3rd birthday. Aaron wore a dragon pendant, and Adrian wore a phoenix. In that poor yet warm home, the laughter of the 2 boys was a constant echo, dispelling their parents' weariness. They believed that no matter how harsh life became, as long as the family was together, it was enough. But no one knew a historical storm was silently brewing, poised to sweep everything away. That summer, the family decided to visit relatives on the mother's side in Mexico. They thought a seaside trip would create beautiful memories for everyone. No one could have imagined that decision would alter their fate forever. That night, the storm struck without warning. Massive waves crashed against their lodgings, the wind howled ferociously, and the mother clutched her 2 children tightly to her chest. In a moment of sheer chaos, a large plank torn loose by the gale slammed into them. The impact wrenched Adrian from his mother's arms. The tiny boy was swallowed by the churning waters right before his family's eyes. The mother screamed, throwing herself into the raging current. The father leaped in after her, desperate. Aaron stood trembling on the shore, crying out for his brother in utter despair. But the night sea was too savage. They searched for hours, then days, but found no trace. Adrian vanished from that moment on. From that second, everything in the family shattered. The mother lived in torment, weeping until she had no tears left, haunted by the image of the phoenix pendant. The father drowned in guilt, clinging to the storm case files as if they were his last shred of hope. And Aaron, though only 6 years old, was left with a horrifying fixation: the eternal memory of his little brother's small arm slipping from his grasp forever. Years after the fateful night he was lost, Adrian grew up in the embrace of a well-to-do family in New York. But this was no ordinary family. His adoptive parents, the Grants, were the chairman and vice chairman of AI Family Technology, a global tech empire. The conglomerate wasn't just known for its cutting-edge AI devices. It was a major importer and exporter of high-end technology to numerous countries, including Mexico, a market full of potential, but riddled with danger. From a young age, Adrian was educated in an environment of high discipline and intellect. He was sharp, perceptive, and possessed analytical skills far beyond his peers. His adoptive parents saw a brilliant future for him and quietly steered him toward the field of law. They believed that one day he would become the one to safeguard the corporation with his intellect, cool, calm, and utterly strategic. When Adrian turned 26, AI Family Technology found itself facing a wave of legal scrutiny from Mexico. Multiple shipments of high-tech equipment were being detained, accused of links to smuggling rings or even support for criminal factions there. Partners grew wary, shareholders nervous, and the media was all too eager to fan the flames of scandal. Though the allegations were entirely baseless, without a resolute figure to untangle the mess, AI Family Tech risked being dragged into a dangerous vortex of public condemnation. In an emergency meeting on the 58th floor of the headquarters, amid a sea of documents, reports, and mounting pressure, Mr. Grant made a declaration that silenced the entire room. "We need our strongest legal representative, someone who can navigate the intersection of technology, politics, and law without flinching. I want Adrian to take the lead." Adrian was stunned. He had never imagined being entrusted with such a monumental responsibility, especially at his age. But in his adoptive parents' eyes, he saw not just trust, but a profound, unspoken hope. A hope he couldn't bear to disappoint. After a moment's consideration, Adrian gave a slight nod. "I'll do it. I will protect AI family tech with everything I have." While Adrian was preparing to take on his role as lead counsel for AI family technology, thousands of miles away on the Mexico border, a shadowy power was seething with rage, ready to burn down anything in his path. That man was El Toro, the head of a sprawling transnational smuggling ring, trafficking weapons, black market chips, and untaxed tech equipment. El Toro was ruthless and shrewdly intelligent. He understood that AI family tech's latest technology, with its superior tracking and security capabilities, was slowly strangling his operations day by day. His smuggling routes through Mexico were consistently disrupted by the very control systems AI family tech has sold to the security forces. Where once he could easily forge documents and slip past customs, now everything had become exponentially more difficult. In a dimly lit room, the faint yellow glow of a lamp washing over his steel-cold face, El Toro reviewed the damage reports and slammed a fist onto the table. "They dare to block my business? An American tech corporation wants to play with me?" Beside him stood Aaron, a young man with piercingly cold eyes, a wiry, resilient build, and a past forged in darkness and violence. Aaron had long since become El Toro's right-hand man. El Toro trusted him absolutely, not just for his exceptional competence, but because Aaron feared neither death nor bloodshed and always completed his missions. El Toro fixed his gaze on Aaron, his voice a low growl. "Send them a message. Destroy anything and everything connected to AI family tech. The harder the hit, the better." Aaron simply nodded. No questions, no hesitation. For him, an order was an order. From that moment on, the confrontation between justice and darkness was officially ignited. And at its very heart were two men whose faces were mirror images of each other. After receiving the order from El Toro, Aaron quietly deployed a surveillance network around AI family technology. His undercover operatives spread out from the main gates to the logistics zones, documenting every minor fluctuation in the corporation's personnel. From the gathered intelligence, they gradually narrowed down their primary target, Adrian, described as a highly influential figure within the corporation. In a rented room near the industrial district, the lackeys crowded around a monitor, reviewing the photos they had covertly taken. One of them swiped through his phone, pulled up AI Family Tech's Instagram page, and pointed at a picture, Adrian in a white suit, speaking at an event with his back to the camera. That's him. Right there. Tall, black hair, very upright posture. They recorded the description. Adrian, white suit, perfect posture, black hair. None of them knew that description was far too vague. And they certainly didn't know that within the company's logistics division, there was another man who looked nearly identical from behind. That evening, 3 of Aaron's subordinates lay in wait near the warehouse area. As the sound of a closing door echoed, the logistics manager stepped out after his shift. He was wearing the same style of white suit seen in the photo, tall and well-built, with neatly trimmed black hair and a brisk walk. Everything matched the description they had been given. "That's him," one whispered. "Grab him quick." Without taking the time to observe his face closely, they rushed him from behind. A heavy blow from a club sent the logistics manager collapsing onto the concrete. Blood seeped through his white shirt. One of them even crowed with triumph. "The boss is going to reward us big for this." But that triumph was short-lived. As they fled the scene, they didn't realize a security guard had discovered the injured man and immediately alerted the corporation security force. Just a few hours later, the executive board of AI Family Tech was in shock upon receiving the report. A senior staff member had been attacked right on company grounds. The first person they sought counsel from was none other than Adrian. Confronted with the information that someone wants him dead, Adrian felt the pressure tightening around him. This attack felt like a warning. Someone out there was trying to push the corporation into the line of fire. And from that moment on, Adrian officially stepped into a fateful battle for survival. In the wake of the mistaken identity attack that had rocked the corporation, Adrian understood the situation had escalated far beyond a simple threat. He immediately convened the internal security team and an external investigation unit, ordering them to comb through every security camera, every entry and exit route near the logistics area, and follow any remaining trace left by the assailants. With his characteristic prudence and decisiveness, Adrian allowed no room for further error. "If they want to fight, I won't stand by idly," he said, the statement revealing his resolve and maturity. The investigative team quickly traced a suspicious transport route on the city's outskirts, believed to be connected to the individuals who had attacked the company employee. That night, they split into two groups and covertly approached the old warehouse district. In the darkness, the sound of trucks, headlights sweeping across the vacant lot revealed a young man directing the unloading of illicit cargo. That man was Aaron. He stood in the weak, flickering glow of a low-wattage work light, clad in a form-fitting black jacket, his sharp-featured face etched with cold detachment. But from a distance, glimpsed through the intermittent light, he looked so much like Adrian that the security team was thrown into confusion. One agent whispered, his voice thick with concern, He came to the field himself?" Another, following standard executive protection protocol, immediately called out, "Mr. Adrian, sir, we're here to escort you." Just that one statement, and the entire situation pivoted. Aaron spun around instantly, his eyes flashing with a killer's instinct. He didn't hear respect in the call. He sensed an ambush. Without a moment's hesitation, Aaron struck like lightning. Two agents were taken down in seconds, precise, economical strikes proving he was a product of brutal training. Before the rest of the team could react, Aaron had leaped into a vehicle and vanished into the darkness, leaving behind a scene of chaos on the empty lot. When the security team reported the incident, the corporation's executive board was left speechless. One agent stated emphatically, "Sir, the man looked 99% identical to Adrian." A suffocating weight filled the conference room. Someone murmured, "Is someone impersonating him?" For the first time, AI Family Tech realized they were facing a mystery that could redefine the entire conflict. After the incident at the contraband yard, Aaron became more vigilant than ever. He felt a clear sense that someone was targeting him and El Toro's operation. But what unsettled him most wasn't the pursuit. It was the hazy image of himself that had appeared amidst those men. The shouts of "Mr. Adrian" still echoed in his head, a sharp needle pricking at a past he had tried to bury. 3 days later, Aaron received a report from one of his men. "The man who looks like you has been seen at the AI Family Tech headquarters." His heart clenched. This couldn't be a coincidence. That night, Aaron drove to the area opposite the corporation's main building, hiding in the shadows. He couldn't explain why he was doing this. He just knew he had to see with his own eyes. Around midnight, the automatic glass doors slid open. A luxurious SUV pulled up to the executive pickup lane. And then Adrian stepped out. In that moment, Aaron's breath caught in his throat. The light washed over Adrian's face, illuminating every feature: the deep-set eyes, the sharp line of the nose, the confident, assured stride. Everything was an exact match for Aaron. Adrian adjusted his tie, giving a slight courteous nod to the security guard. A small gesture, but it was exactly how Aaron would move. Aaron tightened his grip on the steering wheel, speaking to himself in a low voice. No, it's impossible. He's dead. The whisper was shaky, escaping him against his will, but his rationality immediately fought back. This is a trick. They've created a double to lure me out into the open. Aaron's eyes darkened, filled with suspicion and anger. He didn't believe in miracles. In the world he grew up in, every coincidence came with a price paid in blood. Yet, despite his denial, his heart hammered against his ribs. The sight of Adrian caused old memories, faint as morning mist, to suddenly spring to life. Children's laughter, calling to each other on the beach, a small hand slipping from his grasp in the storm all those years ago. Aaron retreated further into the shadows, silently watching Adrian get into the car. He sensed that something larger, something deeper, was demanding he face it. Hearing his staff describe the man who attacked them as being a 99% match to his own face sent a cold electric jolt down Adrian's spine. He wasn't the type to easily believe in vague notions, but the raw fear in his security team's eyes couldn't be a lie. That evening, returning to his familiar high-rise apartment, Adrian poured a glass of wine but didn't drink it. He stood before the floor-to-ceiling window, watching the city's lights reflected in the glass towers, and unbidden, old memories washed over him, fragmented, hazy pieces he'd never fully understood. The image of a child, with a face identical to his own, playing with toy cars together, laughing loudly on a playground. That feeling of familiarity was like a ghost long buried. Adrian frowned. Did I have a twin? He carried that question with him the following evening to a family dinner with his adoptive parents. The usually warm atmosphere grew heavy the moment Adrian broached the subject of his identity. His adoptive mother set her spoon down with a clatter, and though she tried to maintain composure, her hand trembled slightly. His father said nothing, only releasing a soft, weary sigh. "Adrian, you don't need to dwell on such things," he said, his voice low, grave, and weighted with unspoken pressure. "The past is no longer important." But that very answer only deepened his suspicion. He had always trusted them, always seen them as his family. But right now, the evasiveness in his mother's eyes, the way his father gripped his water glass, the tension that now sat at the dining table, it all pointed to them hiding something significant. That night in his study, Adrian opened the old file cabinet, the adoption papers he had never paid much attention to before. Page by page, he saw sections blacked out with ink, lines redacted, information deliberately omitted. His heartbeat began to quicken. One question echoed clearly in his mind. Who am I really? And more importantly, if there truly was someone who looked exactly like him, where was he? And why had their fates been torn apart? The internal inquiry at AI Family Tech took place in the main conference hall, where the board was demanding Adrian present a full legal analysis of the recent string of sabotage incidents. Adrian stood before the LED screen, his voice sharp, each argument presented with clarity, backed by evidence and strategic countermeasures. The aura of a legal prodigy held the entire room in rapt silence. Towards the back, seated anonymously among the staff rows, a man in a black cap sat perfectly still. It was Aaron, sent to gather intelligence on El Toro's orders. But when Adrian took the stage, Aaron's gaze froze. That face, every contour, was no different from his own reflection, except for the eyes, brimming with a confident, commanding presence. Aaron clenched the cap in his hands. The initial surge of hatred, born from the belief that AI Family Tech was using a double to smear El Toro's organization, began to be overshadowed by an indescribable feeling, shock, confusion, and a deep-seated pain he couldn't fathom. As the meeting adjourned, Adrian stepped into the long, polished hallway, the soft yellow light casting long shadows. He had only taken a few steps when he sensed an unusual gaze, sharp as a blade and heavy with hostility. He turned around. And there, several meters away, stood Aaron. Two faces, mirror image reflections, stared at each other, unblinking. No words were spoken. Adrian's lips tightened, his posture shifting to one of guarded alertness. "Who are you? Why have you been following me?" Aaron's reply came in a low, gravelly voice tinged with resentment. "That's my question for you. What are you trying to achieve by impersonating me?" The air between them grew taut as a bowstring. They each took a cautious step closer. Adrian observed every detail. The eyes, cold yet holding a profound ache, a faint scar over the right brow, a stance that was powerful yet carried a subtle, almost imperceptible hitch. The longer he looked, the stronger a sense of familiarity grew, as if he had known this person for a very, very long time. Aaron felt it too. As he closed the distance, leaving only a small space between them, he involuntarily faltered. His breath hitched. Something inside him seemed to constrict. A vague yet powerful intuition screamed, "I cannot kill this man. I cannot lay a hand on him." Adrian tilted his head slightly, his gaze piercing. "Who are you? Why have you been following me?" Aaron's reply contained a still cold, but devoid of any intent to strike. "And I don't know what trap you're setting, but you are not a target I wish to eliminate." Two fates torn apart. Two figures terrifyingly alike. Yet they both remained motionless, neither making the first move, because a deep primal instinct whispered the same command to each. "You must not harm this person." It was unclear if it was reason or a bond of blood buried for 20 years that held them back. That evening, in the underground parking garage of AI Family Tech, Adrian had just finished work, walking towards his car with his mind weighed down by the bizarre encounter with the man who bore his own face. He didn't know that hidden in the shadows of the garage, Aaron's men were lying in wait. They had misunderstood Aaron's order to leave Adrian alone as "handle him out of my sight." Two of them sprang out, one blocking his path, the other ambushing him from behind. Adrian reacted with the instinct of someone trained in martial arts from a young age. He spun, blocked the strike, and drove an elbow into the ribs of the man behind him. The impact echoed dully. But they were more numerous and more reckless, pressing in relentlessly. A heavy punch forced Adrian back, his back hitting a nearby car. At that exact moment, a shadow streaked in like a gale-force wind. Thud. Aaron appeared, without a word. Using his full force, he drove a fist directly into the face of one of his own men, slamming him to the concrete. The other, stunned and confused, was hurled aside by a precise pivoting kick from Aaron. It was pure instinct. No reason, no plan, just one overwhelming feeling. I must protect him. But for Adrian, the sight of Aaron charging in carried a completely different meaning. He thought Aaron was attacking with his men. He hadn't seen Aaron saving him from behind. In Adrian's eyes, this man, this mirror image of himself, was still the most dangerous enemy. Adrian lunged forward, tackling Aaron to the ground. The impact was so violent, the sound of metal scraping against concrete rang out. Two necklaces, one worn by Adrian, one by Aaron, were wrenched from their necks by the force of the takedown. In the chaos, the chains broke, the two pendants skittering across the cold floor before coming to rest side by side. Adrian, pinning Aaron down, happened to glance at the piece of metal by his feet. A dragon etched on the pendant, the symbol he had worn since childhood, the one item his adoptive parents said was found with him when he was adopted. Adrian froze. At the same moment, Aaron, struggling to rise, found his eyes locked on Adrian's pendant. A phoenix, the matching half of the twin set he had worn with the brother who died 20 years ago. His body went rigid. His heart seemed to stop. The two men lay motionless, their ragged breaths mingling in the heavy air, neither continuing the fight. In those few seconds of loaded silence, the truth they had both been afraid to name suddenly became as clear as a flash of light cutting through the dark. They looked at each other, no longer with hostility, no longer with anger, only with a dawning fear and a fragile, desperate hope on the verge of shattering. It can't be. But this is real. Both of them simultaneously whispered the same, identical question in their minds. Who are you? The night wind swept through the parking garage, carrying a chill that made the heavy silence feel even more suffocating. Adrian and Aaron still stood facing each other, their hands trembling slightly from the colossal shock. The dragon and phoenix pendants lay between them like an invisible thread binding their souls. Adrian was the first to speak, his voice thick and hoarse. "You, who are you? Why do you have the other half of my necklace?" Aaron didn't answer. He bent down, picking up the phoenix pendant, his hand shaking so violently he nearly dropped it. The sight of it dragged him back to his earliest childhood, the memory of a small boy being torn from his mother's arms and his twin brother being ripped away from him in the chaos. A fragment of memory, hazy for 20 years, suddenly crystallized into painful clarity. Adrian was experiencing the same. Flickering images from early childhood, another boy who looked exactly like him, a shared cry, hands reaching for each other, rushed back. He took a step back, his heart pounding so hard he had to press a hand to his chest. Aaron finally spoke, his own voice a raw scrape. "I had a twin brother. He's gone. At least, I always believed he was." Adrian met his gaze. "Me too. They told me I had no siblings." They stood frozen. The only sound was their ragged breathing. After a long moment, Aaron reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a worn, nearly illegible slip of paper. "I've kept this for 20 years. It's the number for a missing children's hotline. I've called it for years. No one ever answered. But you could try." Adrian looked at the series of numbers, his hand shaking uncontrollably. For 20 years he had felt a strange, inexplicable emptiness in his heart, and now he understood why. He dialed the number. The line rang. An older woman's voice answered, her breathing unsteady. Hello? Who is this?" Adrian's throat constricted. It's Adrian. I think we need to talk." The woman went silent for a few seconds. Then a sob broke through the line. Adrian? Is that you? Your voice. Oh my God. I've been searching. I never stopped looking." Adrian staggered, bracing himself against the car behind him. Aaron stepped closer, staring at the phone as if it were a gift he had spent a lifetime believing he would never receive. On the other end of the line, the mother's voice grew more choked with emotion. "Aaron, are you there? You've suffered so much. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, my boys.
Aaron's knees buckled, hitting the cold concrete floor. His hands came up to cover his face, but they couldn't muffle the sob that finally tore free, a cry he had suppressed for 20 years spent living in darkness and violence. Adrian knelt down beside him, placing a hand on Aaron's shoulder. The two men who had once believed themselves to be enemies now bowed their heads, tears streaming down their faces.
After the fateful phone call and their reunion in the parking garage, Adrian and Aaron were still sitting in Adrian's car, trying to steady their nerves. Their emotions remained raw, no words yet formed to bridge the overwhelming moment. That fragile silence lasted only a few minutes, because from a distance, another pair of eyes had been watching it all. El Toro. He had grown suspicious of Aaron for a while, orders not fully carried out, his men reporting that Aaron had attacked our own, and his unexplained disappearances. But tonight, El Toro had seen with his own eyes Aaron charging in to protect a stranger, and worse, that stranger was Adrian, the man El Toro considered his greatest threat. For El Toro, this was undeniable proof. Aaron had betrayed him. Gritting his teeth, he ordered his men, "Grab the one in the white suit, no noise, bring him to me. His brother will kneel before me for this." It was the beginning of a nightmare. Adrian had just stepped out of the car after taking Aaron back when a blinding light flashed behind him. A black van pulled up close. Two of El Toro's henchmen leapt out, one wrapping a cloth over his mouth, the other locking his arms. Adrian reacted in a flash. He spun, driving a foot hard into the gut of the man on his right. He slammed an elbow into the other, nearly sending him stumbling. But Adrian was alone, and there were 4 of them. They forced him back against a wall, pressing a chloroform-soaked cloth to his face. In the last moment before his consciousness slipped away, Adrian managed to catch a single image, a bull's head tattoo, El Toro's symbol, on the neck of his captors. When Aaron returned, driven by a sudden gnawing unease, the parking garage was silent. The phoenix pendant Adrian had dropped still lay on the ground. Adrian was gone. There was no sign of a struggle, only faint, unfamiliar tire marks. Aaron frantically searched for any clue. After a few desperate minutes, he came across one of his former underlings, the man he had knocked down earlier, still dazed and trembling. The man stammered, "The boss, El Toro, took him." Aaron froze. In that instant, he understood with brutal clarity what he had never truly allowed himself to believe. El Toro had never seen him as a person, only a tool. No matter his loyalty, the slightest suspicion meant he was disposable. But the one taken wasn't him. It was his brother. A fire ignited in Aaron's eyes, a fierce, burning resolve to save his brother. For the first time in his life, he saw the truth clearly. Adrian was intelligent, calm, courageous, sharp, perhaps even more resilient than he was. A man like that was now in El Toro's clutches because of him. Aaron clenched the dragon pendant in his fist so tightly his knuckles whitened, his teeth gritted until he tasted blood. His voice was a low, steel-cold rasp. El Toro chose the wrong person to touch. I'm bringing my brother back. That night, the Mexican sky was pitch black. El Toro's hideout was a fortress perched on a hill, an impenetrable stronghold. But to Aaron, it was a place he knew every corner of. Aaron moved alongside a U.S. SWAT team, dispatched at Adrian's urgent request. They had taken their positions, surrounding the compound from multiple angles. Deep within the heart of the base, in a holding cell, Adrian was bound to a metal chair. His eyes, however, were strangely clear and composed. In a situation where others would panic, Adrian focused on observing every detail: the placement of security cameras, the guards' shift rotations, the direction of the wiring, which doors had electronic locks.
He silently committed it all to memory. When El Toro finally entered the room, he gave a low chuckle. "The little lawyer thinks he's so clever, does he?" Adrian didn't answer. He simply looked up, meeting El Toro's gaze head-on, his unwavering stare causing the older man to pause for just a fraction of a second. Outside, Aaron had infiltrated the basement, taking down guards one by one with the speed and precision of a seasoned warrior. The SWAT team coordinated with his signals, moving in according to the plan Adrian had formulated from the intelligence he had gathered while captive. The very technology he was meant to protect was now aiding his rescue in this moment of extreme peril. It was the first moment Adrian's intellect and Aaron's fierce prowess combining in a desperate fight for survival. When Aaron burst through the door of the holding cell, everything froze for a single held breath. Adrian was bound. El Toro stood behind him, a gun pressed to the base of his skull. The SWAT team waited for the signal. Aaron stood facing the man who had been his master for 20 years. El Toro curled his lips into a cruel smile. "You want to save him," he said to Aaron. "Let me tell you a story, one you'll never forget." The tension in the room was unbearable.
That year, I was the one who created the chaos. I wanted to separate the two of you. One I would save and train to become the sharp blade I needed. The other, I left to fate. If he died, fine. If he lived, I knew he'd grow up fueled by hatred. He gave a raspy laugh. "I chose you, Aaron. I made you. Your entire life belongs to me." Those words struck Aaron like a physical blow to the heart. He stood rooted to the spot, utterly shattered by the revelation. "You mean all of it was you?" Aaron's voice was a raw, choked whisper. Adrian's own tears finally fell, the first since learning the truth of their origins. "No, it can't be. Why would you do this to us?" El Toro lulled ultimate power. "It's simple. I chose you because I saw a blazing fight in your eyes, the makings of my finest weapon. Adrian, I left his fate to chance." Adrian's tears hit the cold floor. Aaron trembled, overcome by the sheer magnitude of the pain that had defined his entire life. El Toro was apprehended as the SWAT team, the most elite force in the U.S., swarmed in with practiced precision and subdued him. Adrian simply stood watching, a silent observer. A single, softly spoken command from Adrian brought the finality. Activate the sealed files. Instantly, the legal documents, audio recordings, and evidence Adrian had secretly compiled over many months were triggered, transmitted to the entire FBI and U.S. Department of Justice system. It was the final blow, a legal strike of such magnitude it caused El Toro's entire empire to crumble completely. Aaron, after the battle, stood amidst the harsh glare of lights, covered in blood and dust. He didn't run. He didn't hide anymore. He looked at Adrian, asking a silent question. Adrian nodded. "You're not alone. Let me handle the rest." Aaron walked towards the authorities, raised his hands, and surrendered voluntarily. No longer a warrior of darkness fueled by hatred, but a man beginning his journey of atonement. Adrian became his brother's defense attorney, building his case in the courtroom with the intellect and composure of one of New York's most renowned lawyers. He argued that Aaron had been raised, manipulated, and turned into a tool for 20 years, and crucially, that the intelligence Aaron provided was decisive in dismantling the dangerous transnational criminal organization. The court was lenient. Aaron received a sentence far lighter than anyone had anticipated. 3 years later, on a beautiful, clear morning in California, Aaron walked out of the correctional facility, quieter, more mature, and more at peace than ever before. Adrian was waiting, No words needed. They embraced tightly as if making up for 20 years of separation. That evening, the entire family gathered around the dinner table in the small California home. Their mother wept with joy at the sight of her two beloved sons sitting side by side. Their father, hands trembling, opened a worn wooden box. Inside were the twin necklaces he had kept for 2 decades, a promise that a day of reunion would come. He placed them before his sons, his voice choked with emotion. Finally, our family is whole again. Aaron clasped Adrian's hand. Adrian smiled, a smile of pure, reunited happiness. From their own pain, the two brothers decided to create something good. They established a foundation to support children who were lost or separated from their families, children who had known a darkness like their own. They transformed their tear-stained history into a guiding light for other broken lives. Adrian understood that with the solid foundation he now possessed, he could lead his brother towards a brighter future.